All right, drawing class. Today we're going to talk about sighting, and sighting is really learning how to draw the proper proportions on your drawing. This drawing has, or this method sounds really complicated, so it takes a while for it to really set in. And I'm going to give the lecture with all the information, and then the projects will break it down into smaller elements. So if you're feeling overwhelmed with the lecture, just proceed forward. You can always come back to the lecture if you need to, but just proceed to the next assignment, and I will break the concepts down into smaller ideas. Okay, so sighting is the concept of a process of drawing that uses a sighting stick or a pencil to accurately measure the distance between objects and the points of reference. So your pencil is your sighting stick. So have you ever seen artists like hold their thumb out like this? That's them using their thumb as a sighting stick. We're going to use a pencil. So let's see. So why do we use sighting? So it's pretty much to get the correct proportions and angles. So I know we haven't done sighting yet, and I've had messages of like, oh, all the proportions are off. And that was okay when we were doing contour. But now you're doing sighting, and you're going to learn to make those proportions correct. So it's exciting because once it clicks, you now can draw almost anything. Okay, so you'll get to draw things accurately, and it's a way to transfer from a 3D to a 2D. So this is 3D surface, but like an object, like this cup or a still life setup. And once you learn sighting, you will do it forever of this class, forever as you draw. The cool thing about sighting, and now I've done it so much that I don't have to set out to say, okay, I'm going to sight. It's just integrated into my drawing. So I draw something, looks a little off, I immediately start sighting, draw, fix it, and I don't even think about it. I'm not like, oh, I need to now sight this. It just is part of the process of drawing. So sighting allows you to check vertical, horizontal, and diagonal measurements. And it can also be used to make comparative measurements within a drawing. So say we had this little plug, and I also had this cup, and I wanted to make sure that the size of the plug was the right relationship to the size of the cup. If I make the cup too small, the plug will look too big. If I make the plug too big, the cup will look too small. Now I can use sighting to get the sizes of both the objects correct. All right, so this is how you're going to draw. You're using, in sighting, use a measuring tool by holding it in front of you with your arm extended, elbow straight, and one eye closed to get an accurate reading of the space you are going to draw. So, let's see, I don't know how much of me is in the frame, because this program doesn't let me actually see myself even though it's recording. But I'm holding my elbow straight, it's not bending, it's not moving, and my thumb is on the pencil, and I want it in a place that it's easily to move it up and down, because you will be moving your thumb to create measurements, and you're going to close one eye. So if you're right-handed like I am, I close my left eye, but vice versa. Okay. All right. So this shows you more images along that line. So this is what someone looks like for a horizontal measurement. This one someone looks like for a vertical. And then this is their whole body stance. So arm extended, elbow locked, and you are sighting along the pencil. So your thumb takes the measurement, and that thumb can be moved. The top of your pencil is the other side of the measurement. So there's 3 processes of sighting, so we're going to break these down in your projects. So, so you are sighting for relative proportions. This is comparing the size of 2 or more objects. Using your thumb as a point of reference, begin by establishing the total height and the total width of an object. Once you have established this for an object, use those same distances by keeping your thumb in the same spot on your stick. See how large or small another object is in comparison to your initial object. And this is a unit of measurement. I know that this sounds a lot like math and you're probably very confused right now. That's okay. We're going to break it down as we go along. Make sure that your sighting stick is on an imaginary 2D plane in front of your face. If you tilt your sighting stick forward or backwards from whatever you are measuring, you will not be measuring accurately. Think of a windshield wiper on a windshield. So, what that means is, can you see this pencil? I do not want to tilt it, so I'm holding it vertically at all times. Never tilt your pencil. That breaks the 2D plane. So the 2D plane just means a flat surface. So your paper is a flat surface. You want to measure what something looks like on a flat surface. As soon as I bend my pencil, move it forward, and have an angle to it, I am now measuring a 3D space, not 2D space. So keep that pencil vertical. And this is hard with you guys being remote, because in the classroom I'd walk around and grab your attention and show you that you're bending or you're moving the pencil the wrong way. In remote, I can't do that. So just if you learn one thing today from watching this video, is I want you to keep your pencil upright, never tilted. All right. So let's figure this out. So this is a unit, the unit of measurement. So it's a beat or something. And they have measured how big this beat is. So how wide the beat is and how tall the beat is. Now this measurement has now been repeated here, here, and here. So we know that the squash and shoe together are the same width as 3 beats. The unit of measurement is beats, and the shoe and squash are 3 beats long. Okay? So when you're drawing, you're going to pick, like, I want to make my beat this big. There's no requirement of how big to make the beat or whatever else you choose as you know measurement. You can make it smaller if you want to fit more things on the paper, and make it bigger if you want less things on the paper. But once you figure out the size you want and that the beat itself is proportional, which we will have, the first assignment will just be to make one object proportion to itself. So you got that. Now we get to decide, or not decide, but now that you have that unit, we now can figure out how big every other object is. So we decided to draw our beats this big. Now we're going to draw our shoe and squash like about this big, because that's about 3 beats. All right, let's practice that. So what I want you to do right now is measure the apple. So you're going, this one right here is the apple. So you're going to measure the length of the apple from here to here. Now, you're going to put your thumb, when you hold the pencil up, you're going to make sure your pencil is vertical, and the top of the tip of your pencil touches the top of the apple right here, and your thumb touches down here. Okay, now you have a small area, about this big is what I got. And now we're going to decide, or not decide, sorry, measure how tall the wine bottle is from the top of the apple. right here. That's as low as we see it. So we're going to measure up here. So we're going to count how big the apple is. I feel like I'm missing one. Okay, so it is, I got 4. It is 4 apples tall. Now, if you are not getting 4, you need to figure out why. So the length of the apple is this. You're measuring it like this, so you have about this much space. So let's do this together. It will be a little bit hard, but I'll use my cursor. So the first apple is about this side, and the second apple is about this. And the second one's this one, third one's this one, and the fourth one's that one. So we do have a little extra right there. So about 4.5 apples. So the length of this apple is then is the unit of measurement. We're using, instead of inches, we're using the apple, and we're seeing how big that is. Now, the reason we're doing that instead of like inches and things like that is because you can now decide how big you want your apple to be on the page. You can have a small apple or a large apple. The bigger the apple is, the less of the other objects you'll be able to fit in the paper. If your apple's too small, everything will be really, really small. If your apple's too big, maybe the wine bottle would be cut off at a funny place. So it's just something to think about, but you're not constrained to a certain measurement. Okay, here's another example of how to use a unit of measurement. So they use the top of the wine glass, and now they have measured up the whole paper. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they can use those lines to figure out where the plant goes and how tall the squash is and this squash and all of those things. By having those lined up, we kind of know where everything fits in to those lines. Okay, so that was the first thing we learned to do was we learned to cite for the unit of measurement, and then using that unit of measurement to find the proportions of other objects in comparison to the unit of measurement. The second thing is you are going to learn how to cite angles and axis lines. Axis lines indicate the dominant direction of an object which run through the center of a form. Angles refer to the tilted corners and parts of an object. Simply tilt your citing stick to the right or left and align it with the angle or the axis line you are trying to duplicate. Remember not to tilt forward or backwards. You can relate these lines to a specific time of day on a clock face. The observed angle will be duplicated in your drawing, keeping in mind its relationship to the clock. Okay, again, a lot of information, kind of confusing. But you can see an axis is the angle of something. It's not the edge. An angle has an edge, right? So if you look at this edge right here, that's an angle. An axis is if the whole cup is turned and there's an overall axis. So we look here, and there is an axis of the head tilt, and they've used their pencil to measure the angle of that axis. And then they imagine the pencil as a clock, and so when they're drawing, they know to make an angle similar to this. So they know their axis will be similar to this based off the clock. It's probably reversed for you guys, but let's see, if we had like a 1 o'clock angle, it would be like that. And like a 2 o'clock angle would be like this. So different angles. So you can think about the clock. Another thing I do is I measure the angle and then I just slowly put down the pencil and then take another pencil and trace my pencil. And that can be kind of hard if your hand's not stable. The clock thing does throw me off a little bit sometimes, trying to think through, like imagine a clock and then imagine my pencil. If it works for you, great. If you're struggling with the clock, I would try the clock first. If you're struggling with the clock, maybe try gently to move your pencil down and place it on the paper in the angle you are holding it. Okay, so this is one of the hardest things to teach, even when I'm not in the classroom, or even when I am in the classroom, because I can't see through your eyes. But this is what you should be looking at. This angle, so the angle of the house right here, when you're measuring that angle, your pencil should be flush against the angle. We're not measuring length right now, so it doesn't need to be the whole pencil on there, or even that the tip is at the top of the angle and your thumb. So the idea, what we learned last time with the tip and the thumb being measuring tools, now we're not doing that. We are just taking this pencil and having it flush against the angle. If it's tilted, if this pencil was tilted a little bit, it would not be measuring anything you wanted. So you want it to be flush against the angle. This is so important. Flush against the angle. You're holding your pencil flush against the angle. Also, this is the time that people tilt. So they have it like this and it doesn't fit. It's not fitting the angle. So instead of moving it this way like a clock, they end up moving it this way forward till it fits. The problem with that is now you have this angle and you put it down on your paper or you think about it as a clock and it's not correct. So keep it flat, keep it like there's a 2D, right? It cannot, if your hand's there, the pencil cannot go forward. Take my hand away, it goes forward. You are going to pretend there's glass and your pencil cannot go forward. But so you're going to do that and you're going to just tilt, tilt, tilt till it fits an angle. So if I'm holding up this, say I was holding this phone like this, now I'm going to just tilt, 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 tilt. Oh, flush against the phone. Now I have my angle. I am not going to just do this, which is hard to show you how to do because I don't know exactly what's going on in the screen. Okay. All right, so here I just want you to take a moment to practice. I can't check if you're doing it right because I can't see you, but you're going to hold your hand out. You're going to move and measure one of these angles. So I'm measuring this angle right here, and my pencil looks similar to this. Does your pencil look similar to that? If so, similar angle, you're probably doing it correct. Do not move your pencil forward like this. Just like this. It's flush against the angle. So the angle looks like it's touching the pencil. Okay, so you can see how artists use this tool. One way they use it is kind of to angle between two objects. So it's a way to figure out how tall an object is. So it seems like they were a little bit off, but you can measure the angle from this corner to that corner, and that angle shows you where the objects are placed. Okay, so I have students kind of play around and measure different axis angles in her body to kind of figure out like if you can measure. Again, I can't. Usually I'd be walking around the class while people are measuring. So this is her thigh. This is her upper chest. This is her lower abdomen, her head, her arm, her other arm, her shoe, or her ice skate right there. So you can kind of see I was measuring different parts, like the axis here, the axis there, the axis here. The axis like here is different than the axis here and different than the axis here. This arm has an axis and then it changes. This one has an axis and it changes. Okay. All right, so we have one more way of using sighting. Sighting for vertical or horizontal measurements. Using your sighting stick to measure vertical and horizontal alignments, especially as seen between objects or landmarks. This method is used to observe the correct position of one part of a form to its entirely, or to that of another form. Use 1, 2, or 3 landmarks that fall within a sight line on your sighting stick to form either a vertical or horizontal line. This helps to check the accuracy of the distance between your objects. Okay, let's look at what this looks like. So you have 2 ways to do this. You have a horizontal and vertical. So let's look at this image here, B. The sighting stick or pencil is held horizontally, and we can look at the butt cheeks, and we can see that there's an angle to the butt cheek, and this part is a little bit under the pencil, and this part is not. And if you had drawn it straight like the pencil is, you'd be wrong. So this shows you how they're different on each side. It's the same here. Like this shows you that the toe or the end of feet is now angled, is directly under the middle of the butt cheek. So we now know where the toe lines. So if you made the toe or foot too big, it would look wrong, but if you made it smaller, it would look wrong. Sometimes we're really surprised about things. Here's another example. So in this image, the knee is at the same level as the nose. So because this person is slouching down the way they are, their knee is really high. If we didn't put their knee as high, the whole proportion of the person would be off. And so checking to make sure things, and that might surprise us. Just looking at it, we might not think, oh, the knee is at the same height as the nose, but now I know that, and now I can get the proportions right. Again, checking between the nose and the bottom of the chair, they are at the same spot. So if you put the chair over here or you put the chair over here, it would be wrong. Now I know the nose and the chair are in the right spot. Okay, so how I have people measure this is we hold up our pencils and find different things. So look at how the edge of his hair comes down to this part of his shoe. So if we didn't measure that, we might put the head too far in, which would just change everything. Horizontally, the top of this knee goes all the way to the bottom of the jacket. Again, we would probably naturally put the knee lower in comparison to the jacket, but because we measured the angle across, we now know the knee is that high in comparison to the jacket. Okay, I hope that helps. Again, we will have projects elaborating on all of this, but this is an overall explanation of sighting in general. If you are feeling overwhelmed with this, that's okay. I'm going to break it apart. But I wanted you to have all the information so that when I give you the breakaway parts, you're not it's not brand new information. So, all right. Good luck.